The first time Mara heard the name Brené Brown, it was not in a lecture hall or on a glowing screen. It was written in blue marker on a scrap of cardboard taped crookedly to the corkboard in the break room of the county hospital. Someone had copied a sentence beneath it in hurried handwriting: "Empathy is feeling with people." The board was cluttered with shift schedules and flyers for blood drives, but that line stayed with Mara long after her coffee went cold. Mara worked nights in the oncology wing, a place where time felt thick and uneven. Some nights raced by in a blur of beeping machines and whispered codes, others stretched into long corridors of waiting. She had learned how to be efficient, how to check vitals without waking someone, how to chart with one eye open. What she hadn't learned, what no training had really prepared her for, was how to sit with the ache that clung to the ward like a second smell. That night, she met Mr. Alvarez. He was newly admitted, thin as folded paper, his hands restless against the blanket. His chart told a story of tests and scans, of probabilities written in cautious language. When Mara introduced herself, he smiled with the effort of someone trying to be polite despite fear. She did what she always did first, checked his wristband, asked about pain, adjusted the 4. She kept her voice steady, professional. "You work nights," he said, watching her. "I do. Must be lonely." She paused, surprised. Most patients asked about medications or meals. "Sometimes," she said, then added lightly, "but it's quieter. Easier to think." He nodded as if that made sense. "I used to drive trucks at night. Roads are honest when everyone else is asleep." When she left the room, she carried that sentence with her. Roads are honest. She wondered if empathy worked the same way, if it required quiet, a willingness to travel beside someone without daylight explanations. Over the next weeks, Mara found herself lingering in Mr. Alvarez's room when she could. They talked about his daughters, about the bakery he once owned, about the way cinnamon clung to his clothes for years. When he spoke about his fear, he didn't dress it up. He said he was afraid of pain, afraid of becoming a burden, afraid of being forgotten while still alive. Mara listened. She resisted the urge to reassure, to say the bright things people said, to plug the holes in silence. Instead, she tried something new. She let the fear sit between them, acknowledged. "That sounds heavy," she said once, and meant it. He exhaled, a long breath he seemed to have been holding. "It is," he said. "Thank you for not telling me it will be okay." Later, in the break room, Mara looked again at the corkboard quote. "Feeling with people." She realized how often she had tried to feel for them instead, standing at a safe distance, offering sympathy like a wrapped gift. This was different. This was stepping closer, risking the wait. The hospital hired a new volunteer that month, a woman named Elaine who ran a weekly comfort cart through the wards. She offered tea, blankets, small things that made long nights softer. Elaine had a gentle way of moving, as if she didn't want to startle the air. One night, as they walked together, Elaine told Mara about her son, who had died years ago in a car accident. She spoke without drama, but with an honesty that tightened Mara's chest. "I learned about empathy the hard way," Elaine said. "People wanted to fix me. They told me at least he didn't suffer, at least I had other children, at least time would heal. What helped were the ones who said, 'I don't know what to say, but I'm here.'" Mara thought of the quote again, of the cardboard sign. She wondered who had put it there and why. One evening, a code blue echoed down the hall. Mr. Alvarez's room filled with bodies and urgency. Mara moved automatically, hands doing what they knew. When it was over, when the machines fell quiet, she stood at the foot of the bed with a hollow feeling that no amount of training could fill. She went to the supply closet and cried into her sleeve, silent and shaking. Elaine found her there. She didn't say anything. She handed Mara a tissue and leaned against the wall, present as gravity. When the tears slowed, Mara whispered, "I should be better at this." Elaine shook her head. If you were better at not feeling, you'd be worse at caring. The next day, Mara attended a mandatory in-service on professional boundaries. The presenter spoke about compassion fatigue and self-care, about the importance of distance. Mara understood the need, she also felt a quiet resistance. Distance protected, yes, but it also thinned connection until it felt like paper. That afternoon, she went home to her small apartment and found a package on her doorstep. Inside was a book, sent by her sister, who lived across the country and worried about Mara's nights. The cover read, Brené Brown on Empathy. Mara smiled at the coincidence. She read late into the afternoon, underlining passages that felt like permission. Empathy wasn't about having the right words, it was about showing up. It was about acknowledging pain without trying to silver it away. The next time a patient cried in front of her, Mara didn't rush to hand over tissues and advice. She sat down. She said, I'm glad you told me. She learned to ask, what's the hardest part? She learned that kindness wasn't loud, it was precise. Not everyone welcomed it. One patient snapped, don't look at me like that, mistaking presence for pity. Mara apologized and adjusted, learning that empathy also meant respecting boundaries. Listening when someone said no. Kindness had edges. It wasn't a blanket you could throw over everyone the same way. Weeks later, Mara noticed the cardboard sign was gone from the break room. In its place was a printed flyer about flu shots. She felt an odd loss. That night, she wrote the quote again, carefully this time, and taped it back up. Beneath it, she added a second line, it's not fixing. It's listening. A new patient arrived near dawn, a young woman named Tessa with a shaved head and a fierce, exhausted gaze. Tessa made jokes that landed like armor. She refused help until she couldn't. When Mara sat with her, Tessa stared at the ceiling and said, everyone keeps telling me I'm strong. I don't want to be strong. Mara felt the familiar urge to encourage, to praise resilience. She swallowed it. What would you want instead? She asked. Tessa's eyes filled. I want someone to sit here and not be scared of me falling apart. So Mara sat. She counted breaths. She let the room hold what it needed to hold. Later, Tessa squeezed her hand. Thanks for not making me brave, she said. Word spread, quietly, as these things do. A doctor began. The ward did not become lighter, exactly, but it became truer. One night, near the end of her shift, Mara found a folded note tucked under the empathy quote. It was from a colleague she barely knew. I'm not good with words, it read, but that sign helped me sit with my dad today. Thank you. Mara walked home in the pale morning, thinking of honest roads and quiet rooms. She thought of Brené Brown's words not as a doctrine but as a practice, something lived in small choices. She thought of empathy as a muscle that grew with use, sometimes aching, sometimes strong. Months later, when Mara trained a new nurse, she taught her the technical things first. But one night, during a lull, she pointed to the corkboard. Read that, she said. It matters. The nurse nodded, unsure. Mara didn't explain further. Empathy, she had learned, wasn't something you could lecture into being. It was something you discovered when you stayed, when you chose to feel with someone even when it was uncomfortable. It was kindness without armor, presence without solutions. And in a place where so much could not be fixed, it was enough.